I love to do small sewing projects for my kitchen, and this time it's a handle cover for the oven. You can also use this same project to make handle covers for refrigerator, microwave or anything with a handle. Good thing is you can wash it and use it for years to come. As for myself, I think it'll also upgrade my small apartment kitchen with a new look. Now let's move on to our project, starting with the materials and tools. You'll need two fabric layers for the front and back, and these are pre-washed and ironed cotton fabric. I'll come to the measurements in a minute. Next, I'm using a cotton batting layer for the middle. It's not necessary, but I think it'll give a bit of volume to the cover. Then I'm using Velcro for the closure. As you know, it's a type of fastener with hooks and loops. This particular one has a width of 3/4 of an inch. You can also use straps, buttons or plastic snaps, but I think Velcro is the easiest. Finally, you'll need your regular sewing supplies like a pair of scissors, a fabric marking pen, pins or clips, a measuring tape, and a sewing machine with a coordinating thread color. Now let me tell you about the fabric measurements. As I mentioned in the beginning, these covers can be used as handle covers for refrigerator, oven, microwave or anything with a handle. So your measurements need to change according to that requirement. As for myself, I'm making this for an oven handle and I don't want it to be fully covered because I'm planning on hanging 2 tea towels beside the handle cover. Considering that requirement, I decided I needed the length to be about 10 inches, and then with the 1/4 inch seam allowance from both ends, I cut mine 10.5 inches in length. For the width, I got 5.5 inches, and let me tell you how I got it. First, measure the length around the handle, and mine was about 3.75 inches. Then add space for Velcro to work. As you can understand, it needs space to overlap with each other for the closure. I added 1 inch space for that. Finally, add space for the seam allowance on top of that, and that'll be the width of the fabric you need. Leaving a bit of extra space for the width won't do any harm. Otherwise, even if you are a little short, you won't be able to close the cover. So considering all those factors, I cut 2 fabric layers measuring 10.5 by 5.5 inches. But if you look closely, one of the fabric pieces is a little bigger than that size. As I mentioned in the beginning, I'm using a cotton batting layer for the middle and I'm attaching it to the slightly bigger fabric layer. I don't know a lot about quilting, but I wanted to leave a bit of buffer just in case it gets smaller with the quilted lines. Then I'll get a chance to fix that because of the slightly bigger size, and even if not, I can easily trim off the excess fabric. Now about the Velcro, you can either use it as a single longer piece or as 2 separate pieces. I'm gonna go with 2 separate pieces, each measuring 4 inches in length. I think it'll be much easier and stable to work with 2 separate pieces. This means you will need 2 pieces from the hook side and 2 pieces from the loop side. I hope everything is clear to you up to this point, and now let's get started by attaching the batting layer to the slightly bigger fabric layer. For that, I'm gonna draw diagonal lines spacing 2 inches apart on the right side of the fabric. Use a ruler and a fabric marking pen. Mine is a heat erasable fabric marker. It means I can easily get rid of the marks using a simple heat press. You can draw lines closer together or far apart as you prefer. You can even do free quilting just to attach the batting layer to the fabric. After drawing all the lines, place the wrong side of the fabric on top of the cotton batting layer and make sure they are aligned with each other. Then use several pins to hold the two pieces in place. I'm pinning in between the lines because then it won't be in my way while sewing. Now it's time to top stitch along the drawn lines, one line at a time. You just have to sew straight. There is no need to do back stitch at the beginning and at the end like we usually do. Now let me tell you something. I promised myself I won't buy any more new fabric until I use all the fabric I already have, except for the felt. I stuck to that for a long time, but I really liked this fabric and I thought it'll suit for a kitchen project because of its print. So I bought a fat quarter for $1.25 and I think I have enough fabric to make 2 handle covers for the refrigerator and one for the microwave if I use a different fabric for the other side like I'm doing with this one. Since I have all the other supplies at home, I think it's a good value for my money. 4 projects with a matching theme. Just an idea if you are planning on doing the same. Coming back to the project, we are all done with the quilted lines and you can remove all the pins. As you can remember, this fabric layer was slightly bigger and now it's time to trim it off to match with the original 10.5 by 5.5 inch fabric layer. What I do is I place the smaller fabric on top of the slightly bigger one and then pin the 2 layers together. Make sure they are facing the right sides together. Then it'll be easier for the next step. After that, trim off the excess from the slightly bigger fabric with the batting attached. I'm using a ruler and a rotary cutter, but you can just use your regular pair of scissors to do the same thing. It really doesn't matter. Moving on to the next step, now it's time to sew the 2 layers together. Make sure they are aligned and facing the right sides together. Because I already pinned the 2 layers together for the previous step, I'm gonna leave it as it is and you can use more pins as you prefer. When sewing these 2 layers together, we also need to leave a space unsewn to turn right side out at the end. For that, I'm gonna mark about 2 to 3 inches of space on any of the sides. That'll remind me where to start and stop. Now starting at one of the marked points, sew all the way around until you reach the other marked point. I'm leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Remember to do a little back stitch at the beginning and sew straight. When you reach a corner, stop the sewing and raise the foot. Pivot and lower the foot again. You can continue sewing after. When you reach the other marked point, do a little back stitch to securely end the sewing. Finally, trim the thread short. Now it's time to turn the right side out. But before doing that, trim all 4 corners. Make sure you are not damaging any of the stitches while you are doing so. This will help to maintain pointy ends once it turns right side out. These small steps may seem insignificant right now, but these are the ones that eventually give you a quality product, especially if you are making these to sell. Corners are trimmed, and now let's turn this right side out using the space we left. You can use a rod with a blunt end to poke out the far corners. Remember not to poke it too hard, otherwise you will make holes at the corners. After turning the right side out, tuck in the seam ends towards the inside at the unsewn area. You can hand press it or you can press it using an iron. I'm using an iron because then I can also get rid of all those fabric marks I made earlier. As you can remember, I used a heat erasable fabric marker. As our next step, top stitch all the way around to enclose the opening we left. Leave less than a 1/4 inch seam allowance to make sure you are properly enclosing the opening. Do a little back stitch at the beginning and sew straight closer to the margin. If you followed us long enough, you might remember I used the bumblebee fabric on the other side to make a simple pot holder. I personally love to make practical things I can use in my home like pot holders, kitchen sponges, an apron, cord keepers, and now these handle covers. We have all those tutorials on our channel, and please make sure to check those out if you are interested. We are at the final couple of steps on our project, and now do a little back stitch once you reach the starting point. It'll securely end the sewing. Finally, trim the thread short. As the final step, let's attach the Velcro pieces. First, I'm going to show you how they are going to be placed on the cover. As you can understand, they go closer to the 2 longer sides of the cover and take the Velcro with either loops or hooks and then place that on top or bottom end of one of the sides. I'm placing 2 pieces of Velcro with loops on the top end of the lime printed fabric. Then turn over to the other side and the other 2 Velcro with hooks will be placed on the opposite end. It means if the previous ones are placed on the top end, these ones go on the bottom end of the other side. In this case, the side with the bumblebee print. Hoping you're all clear with where the pieces go, let's start sewing the pieces. If you think you'll need more guidance on where things go, just make small marks using a fabric marking pen. After that, one by one, start to sew all 4 Velcro pieces. You can use a pin to keep it in place, but I think it's just easier to hold it while sewing. Even here, start by doing a little back stitch and then sew straight closer to its margin. Actually, it's easier to sew the side with the loops compared to the side with the hooks. If you don't know, loops mean the softer part of the Velcro and the hooks mean the rough side. When sewing Velcro pieces with hooks, I try to turn the wheel by hand instead of using the foot pedal to keep things slow. The problem is if you try to go at your regular speed, sometimes threads may tangle and I really don't want that to happen. I would rather do one stitch at a time than creating an entire mess of threads. Another thing I do is I set the stitch length to 3 and that also helps to deal with the hook side of the Velcro. I remind you to do a little back stitch at the beginning and you also need to do a little back stitch at the end to secure the stitches. That applies for each and every piece. After attaching all the Velcro pieces, now I got something new for my kitchen. I'm so excited to make more for my refrigerator and for the microwave. I also want to try something different for those, like adding small fabric straps instead of Velcro. We'll see how it goes. I hope you like this project and please leave a comment to tell us what you think. Thank you all for watching and subscribing to my channel, and I'll join you in the next one.